Welcome you all to, I think this is the 9th Meet the Press series of the year 2019. For the purpose of emphasis and just in case anybody's listening or watching this for the very first time, Meet the Press series is organized under the auspices of the Ministry of Information, and it provides the ministries or the department or the agency the opportunity to be able to present to us their key achievements, their policies, their good stories, their stories so far since the sector was entrusted into their care. It also grants us access to credible and reliable information and promotes transparency and accountability as embedded in our Constitution. Today we are indeed honored to have with us the entire Ministry of Works and Housing, led by the Minister in charge. They are going to present to us, as it usually happens, detailed analysis on all that has gone on since they took charge of that ministry.
The purpose of this meeting is to project our government's vision and achievements in the works and housing sectors of the economy. His Excellency President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo recognizes the very importance of shelter and public works in maintaining and sustaining lives and property, and in their enhancing role in national development. As a result, and in consultation with the experts in the field, the President rebranded the Ministry of Works and Housing to focus much attention on these two sectors and to ensure the ministry is able to deliver these vital services to the people of Ghana. This conclave of the media, the fourth estate of the realm, reminds us that the entire nation requires public institutions to work at the topmost level of performance to enable the nation attain and sustain the level of development required for an optimistic, self-confident, and prosperous nation through the creative exploitation of our human and natural resources, and operating within a democratic, open, and fair society in which mutual trust and economic opportunities exist for all. This is captured in the Coordinated Program of Economic and Social Development Policies 2017 to 2024. The overall aim of government's infrastructure delivery policies and program is to build a modern and resilient society, to ensure that the development of infrastructure brings about improvement in the overall economic and social well-being of these great people of this country. The strategic direction, therefore, for infrastructure delivery is to leverage private sector resources and expertise for the provision of economic and social infrastructure in an integrated manner. My submission this morning will focus on the policies, plans, programs, and priorities executed by the ministry since January 2017. One sector which is of immense importance is the housing sector, so I'll address the housing issues. We didn't inform you that housing matters. It is said housing is the second after food in the hierarchy of human needs. Housing has thus become one of the most pressing problems facing any society. Indeed, it is a fundamental human need which must be facilitated and secured by government at all levels, at all costs. Housing was very uppermost in the mind of the Lord Jesus when he lamented in Luke 9, verse 58, thus, "Foxes have holes, the birds of the air have nests, but the Son of Man has nowhere to lay his head." Unquote. In chapter 5 of the Constitution relating to the fundamental human rights and freedom, Article 18 thereof provides as follows: "Every person has a right to own property, either alone or in association with others." Unquote. Ghana, like many other countries in the developing world, has serious housing challenges. This is why the government of the New Patriotic Party has identified housing as a critical sector of the economy for reducing poverty and guaranteeing social stability and national security. You may pay regard to pages 84 to 86 of the New Patriotic Party Manifesto of 2016. This is the hard truth I want you to know. Ghana's housing deficit is currently assessed as well over 2 million. And whereas the annual housing requirement is about 250,000 units, supply figures are about 45,000 units per annum, holding all factors constant. It is in the light of this that the government is embarking on a housing program aimed at facilitating construction of 250,000 housing units yearly over the next 8 years through public-private partnership. The Affordable Housing Program. In 2016, President John Agyekum Kufuor, functioning through this ministry and realizing the absolute necessity to address 2006, in 2006, President Agyekum Kufuor, functioning through this ministry and realizing the absolute necessity to address the housing deficit, commenced social housing in the following areas: Borteyman, along the Accra-Tema motorway, Bong Tema, Asokore Mampong, Koforidua, Tamale, and Wa. The completion time for these housing units was 24 months. The unit price for these houses was as follows: 1 bedroom flat or apartment was 14,000 Ghana cedis. 1 bedroom flat apartment special was 20,000 Ghana cedis. 2 bedroom flat apartment was 25,000 Ghana cedis. It is significant to note that at all material time, the CD-dollar parity rate was 1-to-1, which translates into 25,000 United States dollars for a 2-bedroom flat or apartment. In 2009, President Kufuor constitutionally left office and the NDC formed the new government. Article 35(7) of the Constitution provides as follows, and with your permission, I would like to quote: "As far as practicable, a government shall continue and execute projects and programs commenced by the previous governments." Unquote. This provision of the Constitution is eminently sensible because when a government abandons projects of the previous government, the ensuing cost build-up is expensive and a terrible waste of national resources. When the NDC government failed to continue President Kufuor's good works relating to the 1,580 affordable housing units at Borteyman, the Social Security and National Insurance Trust, SSNIT, and the State Housing Company Limited were signed on in 2015 to complete the projects. Ladies and gentlemen, SSNIT did a commercial investment and not a social investment, and the housing units have been completed by SSNIT and currently on sale at the following prices: 1 bedroom flat apartment, 87,000 Ghana cedis. 1 bedroom flat apartment special, 101,000 Ghana cedis. two-bedroom flat apartment, 149,000 Ghana cedis. I respectfully submit that the sale price of the two-bedroom house in United States terms is almost 30,000. Needless to say that the ministry is further under an obligation to pay for the on-site as well as the off-site infrastructure. Currently, there is a price hike of 5,000 United States dollars that affects the pocket of the ordinary Ghanaian. TDC Company Limited is constructing 1,584 housing units at Bontema. The Social Security National Insurance Trust is actively constructing 1,030 dwelling houses at Sokore Mampo. The SNIT housing undertaking involves the rollout of 1- and 2-bedroom flats in 4-story blocks, which are at various stages of completion. The number of units targeted under the Phase 1 is 2,500. The housing development will defeat the affordable housing delivery concept because the NDC government passed on the completion responsibilities to the state institutions, which are commercial in orientation, rather than meeting the social needs of the mass of our people in the lower and middle income brackets. Ladies and gentlemen, the facts are clear that no arrangement was made by the NDC government to continue with the affordable housing undertaking in Wa, Tamale, and Koforidua, which were all at the behest of the poor man's servant, the visionary President Agyekum Kufuor. AESL assesses the cost of completion at 51 million United States dollars. And we pledge that for whatever it is, we'll continue with the good works of President Mahama. We're doing everything in our power to ensure that the 686 housing units are completed for the benefit of the teeming workers who are at the mercy of private homeowners with their oppressive and exorbitant rent advance demands. When, by the grace of God, working through President Akufo-Addo, I became the Minister for Works and Housing on the 7th day of February 2017, I was stampeded by both national and foreign investors in the real estate business. Some of them have world-class technology, very different from our conventional way of erecting buildings, to the extent that decent but affordable housing units can be rolled out in 11 days with a factory in the background supplying the prefabricated structures. I've been telling people that if we are not careful and we are living in antiquity in terms of technology, you might want to say that these are toyish structures. Indeed, and in fact, they are not toyish structures. They have warranty periods between 25 and 50 years. What are the concerns of this army of potential developers who are poised to wipe out the staggering housing deficit? One, they are all ready to bankroll the projects without any initial financial cost to the government of Ghana. Two, they are interested in the return on their investment and request of the government to issue an internationally bankable guarantee which they will place a call on when the housing units have been certified as well constructed, well engineered for human habitation. Three, they are not interested in off-takers and or mortgagors. Now, when the three concerns are addressed by the government, we are going to witness a momentous and tectonic resolution of what has been mocking us as a people for all this length of time. Needless to say that when a nation gives priority to infrastructure developments in the area of housing, the cascading economic effect and positive impact on the GDP is immense. Now, let me address the National Housing and Mortgage Fund. It is said a man will run depending on what is chasing him. it is the position of the ministry that unless we deploy revolutionary financial mechanisms, the yawning housing deficit will mock us for a long time. It is in the light of the above that the ministry is working hand in hand with the Ministry of Finance to create a national housing and mortgage fund. The fund would be a special purpose vehicle to leverage private capital into housing and infrastructure investments, and also enable the Ministry of Works and Housing channel long-term appropriate price financing towards the housing sector. The fund will create for the first time in the financial space a credible mortgage regime in Ghana to enable majority of our people, especially workers, have their own homes in the evening of their years. The fund will be sourced from pension funds, housing, bonds, grants, insurance companies, primary reserve of the central bank, treasury single account, and tax incentives. The ministry very much appreciates the pilot phase of the mortgage and housing finance market as captured at pages 64 and 65 of the budget statement and economic policy of the government of Ghana for the 2019 financial year. You might have heard about the redevelopment scheme. We have a revised redevelopment scheme. The philosophy underlying the redevelopment concept is the renewal of the old rundown neighborhoods by demolishing some of these houses, often located on prime lands, and replacing them with modern houses on the same plots of land, substantially improving the physical environment at virtually no additional infrastructure cost. It was also intended to reduce government expenditure on infrastructure services to developing areas. The redevelopment of government residential areas is ongoing at Roman Ridge, Airport Residential Area, Laboni, cantonments. In addition to these special allocations made to government agencies, bids have been received from prospective investors competing for plots on offer. I beg to submit that redevelopment of government lands should be nationwide and not Accra-centered, and the ministry is rigorously pursuing this. I want to address slum upgrading. The growing incidence of slum development in Ghana has been the result of the rural-urban migration. Everybody wants to live in Accra. Limited supply of land and regulatory frameworks that are at best indifferent and hostile to the needs of the poor. Even though Nima and Mamobi routinely suffer from inadequate provisions of basic facilities such as housing, water, electricity, and drainage systems, the communities continue to grow. The President's commitment to slum upgrading of Nima and Mamobi was stated forcefully in his message of the State of the Nation, eloquently and elegantly delivered in Parliament on the 20th day of February 2019. The transformation of approximately 1,039 acres of prime land which Nima and Mamobi occupy will give meaning and beauty to the present vision of inner city and Zongo development. To this end, we are collaborating with the Ministries of Lands and Natural Resources, Inner City and Zongo Development to make the aforesaid area a world-class residential enclave close to Jubilee House, the seat of government, and I want to stress this for the benefit of those who enjoy propaganda, without dislodging the good people who currently dwell in Nima and Mamobi. We make Nima a world-class residential area. We give the Nima folks a good place to live. We don't ask them to go to any other area. Alongside them will be world-class housing structures for Ghanaians to use. This is another form of redevelopment, and it should cut across the entire nation. Anywhere that we have slums, we should upgrade them. Let me address security services housing. Ladies and gentlemen, in in the government's effort at providing decent accommodation for our security personnel, the Security Service Housing Project Phase 2, which was a Ghana Navy structures, was commissioned by His Excellency, the Vice President, in March 2018 and handed over to the Navy. The beautiful architectural setup is located at Tema New Town. It is remarkable that it is the first Navy barracks of its kind in the realm. And guess what? It was President Mahama who started this project. So, if you are Bible compliant, I might want to quote 1 Corinthians 3, 6 and 7. Paul planted. You can put the name of President Mahama there. Apollo watered. And God gave the increase. President Mahama started. We commissioned it. And President Akufo-Addo is paying the contractors. This is how we run the government. The ministry has also started the process of constructing 320 housing units for the Security Service under Phase 2 of the Security Services Housing Program for the Ghana Police Service as its training school in Tesano. Under the Sino-Hydro arrangement, 40,000 housing units are envisaged, and it will serve the following security setups. 1, the Ghana Armed Forces, the Ghana Prison Services, Ghana Police Service, Ghana National Fire Service, and the Ghana Immigration Service. Thankfully, the judiciary was not left out in the housing infrastructure rollout. The ministry is driving a lot of policies, and we have put together an arrangement for the establishment of a real estate authority. What is the purpose of that? The establishment of a real estate authority is to regulate real estate agency practice, real estate commercial transactions, including the sale, purchase, rental, and leasing of real estate and related fixed assets. This bill that we've put together will be submitted to Parliament this year for consideration. Establishment of the authority will go a long way to instill professionalism and discipline in the real estate practice, introduce a code of ethics to guide the behavior of all actors in the valuation and real estate sector. Those of you who were alive to what was happening in the airspace, we introduced the building code. This was done by His Excellency Dr. Mahamadou Bawumia. I left the Alhaji, on the 31st day of October 2018. The ministry in the process of amending the regulations LI 1630 of 1996 to reflect the revised building code. Another legislation that we are pushing is a condominium properties bill, which is very, very important, which is to do with the fact that now we are going high-rise. What will be the legal framework for doing this? We are pushing this as well. We want to revise the Rent Act. The provision of meaningful shelter for all citizenry is a major part of the government's developmental goals. We have a Rent Act which is 56 years old. There was that is Rent Act 1963, Act 220. There was an intervention through the Rent Control Act 1986, PNC Law 138. We've not received too much help from these two pieces of legislation. In the light of the shortcomings of the existing Rent Act, we do not significantly address changes in the housing sector. The rent bill is required. The review is intended to safeguard the rights of vulnerable tenants who have been outpriced by the uncontrollable hike in the cost of renting accommodation. The bill also ensures that property dwellers are not discouraged from investing in the housing industry by rigid rent control mechanisms, that suppress chargeable rent to artificial levels. I do not see how we can do the business of giving our people places to dwell without creating land banks. It is the goal of the ministry to keep the price of housing units low through a host of major cost control factors which increase efficiency and keeps costs to the barest minimum. The ministry's first consideration is the availability of land for public housing, which requires forward planning and earmarking of suitable land. A vast majority of members of parliament have secured lands for purposes of providing affordable housing units in various constituencies of the country. This will be the launch pad of the Akufo-Addo flats across the length and breadth of the country. It is gratifying to note that our traditional overlords have shown commitment to the wiping out of the deficit and have donated lands for housing undertakings. We are grateful to Otumfuo Osei Tutu II, the Asantehene, for donating 100-acre land lying, being, and situated at Dedieso in Kumasi to meet, how's it pronounced? Desuya. The Desuya. Yes, I was pronouncing the Asante word like an Achiman. The Desuya in Kumasi to meet the acute needs of our people. I think other traditional overlords will emulate this example. My ministry has also been invited by Osagyefo Amoatio for repenting the Ochehene for the delineation of land at Chebi for the affordable housing rollouts. The State Housing Company Limited works under us, and it's worth mentioning that it has earmarked on a nationwide social housing scheme. It has commenced in the Greater Accra region the regeneration of the Kanda Estate, and others at Adenta, Latebiokoshi, and Kaneshi, as well as North Efiekuma in the Western region. Ladies and gentlemen, the following are some of the completed ongoing projects TDC has undertaken from last year to date. The Site 3 infilling project at Tema Community 1, which entails the construction of 4 8-story blocks of 2-bedroom apartments, totaling 64 apartments, and commercial facility under Phase 1 of the project is 100% complete. The Site 3 infilling project, Phase 2, which entails construction of 64 housing made up of 3-bedroom apartments, is 62% complete and expected to be completed by the end of the year. Madam, please complete it so that people will find good places of abode. About 329 acres of land at Community 24 Main has been serviced and is about 90% complete, while servicing of 144 acres of land at Community 24 Extension is about 95% complete. It's expected to be completed by the end of the year. TDC towers comprising 8-story shops and offices complex at Community 2 is 100% complete. That's a good job done. The redevelopment of the Kaiser Flats, Community 4, under the Urban Renewal Program to redevelop dilapidated blocks of flats into a modern community with adequate commercial and social facilities through the public-private partnership has commenced. The demolition of 4 dilapidated blocks has been completed. Carting of the debris to make way for the development is currently ongoing. And I'm warning individuals who might want to stand in the way of these activities that they will be dealt with in accordance with law. Some people are trying to stand in the way of the redevelopment of the Kaiser Flats. We have a court order to dislodge them. Now let me tackle the business of the Public Servants Housing Loan Scheme. Last year, a total of 800,000 Ghana cedis was approved for the Public Servants Housing Loan Scheme Board. Of this amount, a total of 300,000 was released to augment the revolving fund of the scheme. For the same period, a total of 1.6 million odd was disbursed, from which 68 public servants received financial support to acquire their own dwellings for the period under review. To strengthen the housing loan scheme, the ministry will take the necessary steps to increase the budgetary allocation to ensure the revolving fund is enough to provide more housing loans to public servants. The Department of Rural Housing has successfully completed 2 semi-detached houses using local building materials in collaboration with the Ghana Water Company Limited to improve upon the living conditions of staff. This project is located at Brimso, in the Central Region. It was re-awarded in March 2017 and completed in March 2018. You can never talk about housing without a professional backup. And that is why the Architects Registration Council is a very integral part of the ministry. In accordance with the Architects Act 1969, NLCD 357, the Architects Registration Council admitted 42 newly qualified architects into the National Register of Architects. The Council has also produced a professional practice training handbook to serve as a manual for probationary architects seeking licensing. A 20-day workshop was organized for 92 probationers towards the 2018 National Professional Practice and Licensing Exam. The Architects Registration Council, as part of its mandate for advocacy, has organized 5 sensitization road shows held in Ho, Kumasi, Sunyani, Tamale, and Bolgatanga. The program sensitized 210 participants in total. A draft code of professional conduct and ethics for architects aimed at creating an ethical framework for practitioners within the architectural framework has been developed. If we do not have architects in the background, you know the consequences. People build for 1 year and then to collapse. There are human losses. I've dwelled on housing because it's the heartbeat of the ministry. Let me turn to works. Ladies and gentlemen, the works sector manages the development, construction, and maintenance of government-landed properties, coastal protection works, drainage, and operational hydrology. It is a fact that Ghana has a 550 coastline. It's called the Gulf of Guinea. And this coastline is under threat because of climatic changes and the ferocious nature of tidal waves. And because of that, we spend considerable capital in trying to protect our citizenry from the force of the sea. To avert such calamities and many others, the protection of the country's coastline is considered very critical, as it is the responsibility of government to safeguard lives, livelihoods, and properties, and to promote socio-economic activities, especially for those living along the coastline. Ladies and gentlemen, you may visit the Abuazi Coastal Protection Works, which was completed in 2017. We have the Adjoa Coastal Protection Works near Takoradi, which is 90% complete and is expected to be completed by the end of 2019. The Blekusu Coastal Protection Project in the Volta region entails the construction of a system of 22 armor rock groins over a coastal stretch of 4.3 kilometers. It's about 90% complete. The Ansuman Emergency Sea Defense Project is 80% complete. The new Takoradi Emergency Sea Defense Project, Phase 2 at Elmina, is 85% complete. The coastal protection undertaking in Diskov is ongoing And we expect that the completion point will be December 2019, which is this year. The Axim coastal protection is ongoing. We have the Cape Coast coastal protection, which was awarded in 2018, the Commander 2018, and Mabo 2019, and the new Takoradi Phase 3, 2019. The contracts have been awarded. I'd like to take this opportunity to inform you that other coastal settlements in the country continue to remain under serious threat to tidal wave destruction and erosion. In view of this, the ministry has programmed a number of projects within the medium term to extend its coastal protection works to communities such as Mensa Guinea in Accra here, Ningo Pram and Nungwa Maritime University, Abuaze, Shama Phase 2, Esipon, Anyonoin, Takoradi, Botia and Kokrobite, Dansuman Phase 2, and APAM to combat coastal erosion. Ladies and gentlemen, the game changer will be how we can convert our coastal protection undertakings into a world-class beach resorts, like a 5-star hotel located on the reclaimed land of the sea, with the sand on the beach as pure as white granulated sugar without human feces. Now, what is mocking us is the floods. So let me address some of the issues of the floods. It's a whole book that I don't think time will permit me to tell you what is challenging us relating to the floods. It has become necessary that we should have a National Hydrology Authority. And we'll bring this about so that they'll have the responsibility to develop comprehensive solutions to mitigate the effects of flooding and the protection of our inland and sea coastlines. As part of the government's commitment towards stemming the effects of flooding across the country, a cabinet committee was tasked by His Excellency President Nana Addo Akufo-Addo to provide a comprehensive roadmap for a permanent fix to the perennial flooding in the country. Consequently, the cabinet has conveyed approval for the ministry to tackle drains in Accra and Kumasi in the short term and to complete the rest in the medium term. In this regard, the ministry has commenced the process to procure consulting firms to engineer the primary drains in the country. It is also gratifying to mention that in June 2017, the Greater Accra Resilient and Integrated Development GARID project was launched by the World Bank with the support of the Ministry of Works and Housing, Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources, Ministry of Inner City and Zongo Development, the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development, as well as the Metropolitan, Municipal and District Assemblies in the Greater Accra region. The Ministry of Works and Housing will be responsible for the implementation of Component 1 of the project, which will support deferred dredging, urgent repairs, development of retention ponds, among others, to achieve 1 to 50-year flooding safety and reduce vulnerability to flooding in priority low-income communities such as Nima, Alajo, Akweteman, and Agbogbloshie. The financial commitment of GARID is in a sum of $200 million United States dollars, and the project will take off in the last quarter of 2020. Some people are fixated with Accra flooding, but it is a fact. The whole nation is being challenged with drainage issues. So the Accra River Drainage Project, which is in Aguna Strait in the central region, is being tackled. So also is the Tepa and the Jura. These are major drains. We are working on them with all seriousness. We're dealing with the Ejura drains, which entail the construction of reinforced concrete drain of size 411 meters length and 2.70 meters height and 1.60 meters width. Ladies and gentlemen, the provision of accurate hydrological data and information for flood early warning system is critical to the ministry's flood management an operational hydrology program. In line with this, the maintenance and rehabilitation of 14 hydrological gauge stations and the maintenance of telemetry stations with a wide Volta and OT basin have been undertaken to facilitate achievement of the program's objective. Now let me give you the cold facts on rain-induced flooding. This is what is confronting us. All the international and national experts on flooding converge on the point that the following are the causes of the menace. World climatic changes induce heavy flooding, including the United States of America. You can Google and see. Urbanization and settlements in low-lying areas. Lack of properly engineered drainage capacity, that is construction and maintenance. And this is very important for Ghanaians. The subculture of our people dumping all that they hate in their homes into the already challenged and antiquated drains. I wish this will sink somewhere in our hearts. I want to quote it again. The subculture of our people dumping all that they hate in their homes, they call it rubbish, into the challenge and antiquated drains. It's a cause of the rain-induced flooding. And we should watch it. Poor waste management, that is both solid and liquid waste. Building and construction waterways. Encroachment of natural water reservoirs, that is wetlands, lagoons and ponds. Inadequate retention ponds. High tide and coastal erosion. Poor land use, planning, implementation, and enforcement. Inadequate funding for flood management. And lastly, what is important, lack of political will to bankroll the huge capital outlay to secure a world-class drainage system for the nation so as to avert the self-defeating and expensive cycle of desilting. We've urged upon the government that we should break the back of this expensive but self-desilting, as I say, every year we pay money for desilting. In the medium-term expenditure framework of 2018 to 2021, the amount that was slated for the flooding challenges was 20,584,189 Ghana cedis. And then to tackle drainage and flood-related challenges is 45,470,33 Ghana cedis. Often concerning the 2018 budget allocation, my ministry impressed upon the Minister for Finance to increase the amount as measured against the enormity of the infrastructure problems related to flooding. On the 26th day of March 2018, I signed a request for the commencement certificate to commit government to the tune of 200 million for flood control projects made up of desilting, evacuation, and construction works, having due regard to the agitation of party faithful for such manageable projects. Very important that you should bear these things in mind. We need to push for more money to do these things. The Ministry of Finance initially approved an amount of 5.5 million Ghana cedis for desilting, excavation works, and later 194.5 million for construction works on the 22nd day of May 2018 and 27th day of July 2018 respectively. We had to go through a lot of struggles to get procurement approvals for work to continue. And I can say with authority that the works have started. That is last year's works. And all factors being equal, we'll be able to contain the imminent rains. And we're careful to distribute the monies across board. So the Greater Accra region had a fair share of it. The list is very tall, but Let me see whether I can just tell you what we did. The South Kaneshie drains. Densu downstream, Accra Cape Coast Road downstream drains. Teshie drains. Nungwa, Bong, Kokojo, Otinibi area drains. Insechi drains. Ashiama. Tema New Town drains. Kweyman drains. Dawenya area drains. Pram Pram. Kantamanso, Dodowa, Frafraha, Kubekrum, Dawenya, Tuba drains. Sagleme affordable housing area drains. I'll leave Greater Accra probably. It's about 27 of them, and there are more to come. This is what we can afford for now. Ashanti region, Kumasi, Dichemsu drain, Kumasi, Adiebeba drains, Kumasi, Chapatre drains, Kumasi, Abu Abu drains, Atonsu, Abu Abu drains. Takoradi, in the western region, Takoradi, Kwesimintim drains, Takoradi, Ayiri drains, then Takoradi, Anaji drains. The central region, Cape Coast Holy Child area drains, Winneba area drains, Kasua Obum road drains, Kasua Ukuru drains. Eastern region, where I come from, Ovrodia drains, Akwetia, Agunas Rodro, Volta region, whole drains, Hohoi, Akachi, Ranhafo, Sunyane, Shiramam from drain, Sunyane estate drain, Sunyane Penkwasi drain. The northern region, Tamale, Guamani drains, Tamale, Gariba Lodge area drains, then Tamale central drains. This brought us to about 5.5 million Ghana cedis. There's also the 2018 activity of what we call concrete lining drainage. That is when you deal with the huge structures and you do concrete work so that we have the sewage going to directed areas. Capital intensive. It's so much here, I don't want to bore you. And probably who is timing me so that I don't see. Yes. Have I done? I'm exceeding my time. So I crave your indulgence. I'm about to bring it to a close. We had about 194.5 million Ghana cedis to do this undertaking. I don't want to tell you about the fact that this is the first time that the government is showing serious commitment in relation to what is mocking us every year. If I tell you the budgetary allocation for solving the problems before we took over, you'll be embarrassed. It is our hope that the desalting exercise will be intensified, having due regard to the fact that the peak rainfalls are in where? June, July, and August. There's a 2019 National Flood Control Works, which we're pushing the Minister for Finance to come to our aid so that we'll be able to add more areas. More areas. I will not be able to say it, but the constructional figures are in the neighborhood of 523,150,000 Ghana cedis. Now, let me say something which is very, very important. You are aware that we are not bereft of ideas and information as to where it matters most in flood areas. You are aware. Every Ghanaian is aware. Some people are audacious to fight the floods. They've been doing it for 10 years and they always lose. For Christ's sake, this year, NADMO is embarking on an activity that people should move from harm's way. I beg Ghanaians who are challenged, they want to do an evacuation exercise, they should move from harm's way. It is not right for you to dare what can kill you. And when you are driving and there's a heavy rainfall, leave the car and get out of the car. Don't die in the car and blame government for it. It is better to have your life than to lose a Mercedes-Benz trying to dare the rains. It's very important we come to that. And then the Metropolitan Assembly is saying that this year they'll bring down every structure in waterways. Some people are saying this is a mean-spirited approach in dealing with floods. I beg to differ. If you had a mansion sitting in a waterway, and when we have storm rain runoffs, and you have floods all over a huge area because of one man's house, and people suffer in terms of lives, livelihoods, and properties, it is better for one man's house to go down and the whole community to be flooded. I've told the mayor of Accra to do it in accordance with law. And I don't think we should be weeping for those who do not care about other lives. In concluding, in the Ghana Beyond Aid journey, the nation is deserving of subterranean drains. What does it mean? That in every civilized environment, sewage is not exposed. This is what we are deserving of. That every filth we hate should go subterranean. It should go underground. This is where the Ghana Beyond Aid should go. This will eliminate the vicious cycle of expensive but self-defeating yearly ritual of desilting. Open drains engender our filth-creating subculture, which are very detrimental to our health and environmental sanity. Ladies and gentlemen, the ministry is very poised to give you the very best for the nation to move ahead. And I want to submit finally that when we pay good money for infrastructure, the economy improves. I thank you for giving me this space, and I'm open to a question time. Thank you very much.